I currently manage a team of 30 people from 10 very, 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 very different nationalities. I don't actually know what is tougher, the remote part of having to interact with all of my team just using Skype, video conference, telephone, or email, or the different cultural interpretations to everyday things that happen in the workplace. Luckily, my own personal journey has been a bit of a nomad experience. I was actually born here in Spain, and before I was even a month, I moved to Africa. Then I spent 5 years in Puerto Rico, then a few more years in Spain, then 5 years in the Netherlands. Then I spent 10 years between LA, San Francisco, and New York. Please don't try to add all of this up, it's a little bit chaotic. Before I moved back to Europe, traveled a little bit around, and finally settling down back in Madrid. I'm no expert in cultures, but I've had hundreds of experiences managing everyday problems that arise from managing a multicultural team remotely. And still, I make many mistakes. So why am I talking about this today? Because this situation that I face every single day will happen to most of you if it already hasn't happened. There are tons of problems that arise from everyday situations in the workplace. To illustrate how simple yet complex this problem is, I wanted to share a story that happened to me about 2 years ago when I first started working remotely with my team in South Africa. I'd been doing this for about 5 years, and as usual, I was sitting down in front of my computer in Madrid, and I had one of my first conference calls with my team in South Africa. The conference call went great, and at the end of it, one of my team members tells me, "I'll call you just now," which I thought, oh, great. I mean, I was actually very excited to get into the detail of it. So I ended the call, and I waited in front of my computer, and I waited, and I waited, and I waited, and then after about 15 minutes, I sent a message to my team member in South Africa, and I told him, "Hey, aren't we talking just now?" To which he responded, "Yes, yeah, just now." And he pinged me this message. He sent me this image describing how South Africans define time. So just now wasn't, I think what we're all thinking right now, we'll talk in a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes. For South Africans, just now can mean, we'll talk in the future, hopefully today, if not tomorrow, maybe someday in the distant future. You don't really know when you're going to talk. How could something so simple, such as expressions about time, lead to such misunderstanding? This had been an internal meeting, so it wasn't a big problem, but imagine this had been an external meeting with clients. Cultural differences can lead to huge misunderstandings. And the remoteness part of it made it even worse because I couldn't get out of my desk, go around the hallway, tap the person on the shoulder and say, "Hey, are we talking just now?" And of course, this was my first week at work, and I didn't want to sound like an idiot asking these questions. With my own team, remote working situations can be even more confusing. So just this week, we launched the project in India, and it went extremely well. And I wanted to share my enthusiasm with my team. So in one of our weekly calls, I shared with the rest of the team, and I told one of my Indian coworkers, "You're killing it out there." And the next day, to my surprise, I get an email very early in the morning from my Indian team member asking me, "Oh, what did I do wrong? Can you give me advice? Can you tell me how I can improve?" And I was taken aback. I was actually trying to express my enthusiasm and the great job that he had done, and he had interpreted something completely different. The exact same sentence, in the exact same language, being understood in two completely different ways. The lack of context created this misunderstanding. Context is absolutely necessary when working with remote teams. So even with two teams with the same natural language, such as English, there are still problems created due to lack of context. So about a year ago, I was having quite a few communication problems between my US and my London-based teams. We had tons of meetings, probably too many nowadays in most companies, and lots of actions were coming out, lots of activities, we were doing lots of things, but the results were poor, people were not communicating well with each other, and people were getting extremely frustrated. So I needed to do something about this. So I bought 30 copies of a book about how to work with people from different cultures. And I gave my whole team this book here, The Culture Map by Aaron Mayer, and the effect was absolutely amazing. It brought out in the open, in plain sight, how different people are on the team. So I had 30 different people from 10 very different nationalities that were all speaking the exact same language, in this case English, but were all saying things that were completely different and were acting completely different in the same situations. So for example, my team in Latin America, they're very hierarchical, so they didn't understand when people were responding in certain ways. Or my US and my Dutch teams based in London, they found it completely normal that in the middle of a conference call, you could interrupt the person and you can say your opinion, and other people were going absolutely nuts with this. This self-awareness and bringing this out in this open was absolutely amazing. It was a key driving force for our success.